Okay, so you're ready to play your first tournament. In this video, we're going to go through everything you need to know so you don't look like a beginner. First of all, the tournament itself. Tournaments can be broken down into different categories. You've got open tournaments and you've got restricted rating tournaments. In an open tournament, anyone can play in that tournament. It doesn't even matter if you have ever played a tournament or even have a rating. When it comes to restricted tournaments, they could be limited to people no higher than a certain rating point, or it could restrict people who have not reached a rating point yet. For example, an under 1800 tournament means anyone under 1800 can play, and an over 1800 would mean you need to have a minimum rating of 1800 to join. The time controls in tournaments can vary. You've got your classical, which is 90 minutes plus 30 seconds, or it could be 60 minutes plus 10 seconds. And then you've got your rapid time controls, which are typically around 15 to half an hour. And you've got your blitz, which is 3 to 5 minutes per player. Tournaments can usually be found online, and you will normally do your sign up process before getting to the venue. Now that you've signed up, what do you bring to the venue? These days, most venues have their own chess sets available. However, some of them may require you to bring one along. You can have a look at the website where you sign up to see if that's a requirement. However, most tournaments are already sorted out these days. You may also need to join your local federation, so have a check of the tournament website to see if there's any other criteria you need to do before that. Otherwise, what do you actually bring to the venue? Well, I would suggest bringing a backpack, and depending on the time of year and the weather, definitely bring a jacket or maybe a spare t-shirt. Make sure you have a water bottle with you, especially if you're playing in longer games. You're going to want to have a drink by your side, and whatever you feel like you'll need for the day, bring that along, leave it in your bag. Now, it's very important that you bring a bag to a tournament, because you will find that a lot of tournaments will not let you keep your electronic devices on you, such as your phone, smartwatch, or any other device that can transmit data. You will need to keep that in your bag or potentially leave it in a storage area. If you're found with those items on your person at any time during the tournament, you may be disqualified. So you've packed your bags, you're ready to go, and you arrive at the venue. What you want to do straight away is go and find out if you need to check in. You can do that by finding the director of play and just confirming with them. If you don't check in and you're required to, you may not be included in round one pairing. After check-in and prior to round one, there's normally an opening ceremony. Now, what happens here is the tournament director is going to introduce any of the arbiters who are working in the tournament. These people are the people who will monitor the tournament, make sure everything is fair, and they'll also be running certain areas. Find out who these people are just in case you have any questions or comments, and they will be able to come over and help. So the opening ceremony will go through all the house rules. They will tell you what's permitted. For example, if you're playing in a classical game, they may tell you you have to record every single move. If you are a spectator or you have spectators with you, family or friends who want to watch, they may tell you if they're permitted to stay in the hall or if they need to leave the area. So it's very important that you arrive at the opening ceremony and hear the rules that the director of play has put in place. So after the opening ceremony, they will put out round one on a piece of paper. Normally, this is just a case of putting up a piece of paper on a wall, and it will be divided into two columns. It will have the board number, player one and player two. The board number is the table you'll be playing at. So if you're playing at table one, and your name is first, that means you are playing at table one and you are white. If you're playing at table one and your name is second on the list in the second column, you will be playing as black. So you get to the table, you should have a score sheet ready to go. Now, depending on the tournament you play in, score sheets will normally be provided and you'll have to use that particular score sheet. If you're playing in a FIDE tournament, they will require you to use the score sheet provided by the organizer. Occasionally, people like to bring books that they can write their games down in. However, FIDE does not allow this, because if you have pages on the other side with completed games, you could, in effect, review those games during play, which is not allowed. That's why they make you use their own particular score sheet. If you want to see more on how to record moves, you can check out my video on chess notation explaining how to record the moves. Next up, we've got the clock. The clock is already at the table and it should be set on the time limit for that tournament. When you get to the table, just double check that it's all good. Being in a professional tournament or a competitive tournament, there are rules that you need to abide by, such as touch, move, touch, take. If you touch a piece, you are committed to moving it. If you touch an opponent's piece, you are committed to taking it. So if you can legally do those options, then you must. If you do find that there is a piece that is a bit strange on the board and you need to adjust it, just announce adjust, fix it up, and then take your hand away. If you find that the piece is a bit weird and you go to touch it and then you say adjust, well, you are now committed to moving that piece. So we'll quickly go over the move order. When you make your move at the board, you will move your piece, you will hit your clock, which completes your move, and then you will write down your move. Your opponent will make their move, they will hit their clock, and they will write down their move. You are not permitted to write down your move and then make it. You must first make your move and then complete your move by hitting the clock, and then you can write down your move. Okay, so we've done the sign up, we've checked our location. Now we're gonna get to our table. So what do we do when we get to the table? First, get anything out of the table that you need. So you get your pen, you get your drink bottle, you get your jacket, put it on your chair, whatever you need to do, because you will not be going to that bag again until after the game has finished. So turn off your phone, turn off alarms, put those devices in your bag, close your bag, you're not gonna be touching your bag again. So you've got everything out, good to go. Make sure you turn off your phone, but before you do, turn off any alarms, because if your phone goes off during the tournament, even if it's an alarm that was set and you forgot about, you would be disqualified from that round. Next, check that the clock is good and set to the correct time. If it's not, the person playing with you may know how to fix it, or call an arbiter and get them to put it on the correct mode. Then we want to ensure that the board is set up correctly. Make sure that all your pieces are in their correct spot. And at the tournament board, you're going to have notation on the side. So white will have A1, B2, C3. Black will be starting from the 8th rank. Make sure these are set up correctly, because you may be using those coordinates on the table throughout the game to help you write down your moves. The clock will typically be on the same side for every player. Now, if you want to move the clock to the other side, typically it is black's choice on what side the clock goes on. However, you need to discuss with the arbiters if they're okay for you to move the clock. Me personally, I do enjoy moving the clock to be a bit more comfortable. However, I've had arbiters in the past who don't quite like it, and you need to respect the decision of the arbiter in that case and just move on. So I would recommend with clocks, just keep them on the side they're meant to be on and get used to playing with the clock on the left and right side. So now that we are ready to go, you're going to wait for the director of play or the arbiter to announce that the game may commence. Once it does, reach out to your opponent, shake hands, and make your first move. Now, the person playing black will normally start the clock by pressing play, and once the clock starts going, you can make your move and write down your move. During the game, there may be draws offered. Normally, when offering a draw, you're meant to do it on your turn, and you're meant to do it before you press your clock. So you can make your move, offer a draw, would you like a draw, and then hit your clock. When recording, you'll just put a little equal sign next to your move, indicating that you've offered a draw. It's then up to the opponent if they want to accept or not. Now, keep in mind, if you offer a draw before you make your move, and then you find a really good move and you make it, they can still accept the draw because you've offered it that turn. Remember that draw offers are only for that turn. If your opponent declines the draw and then 2 moves later decides they want the draw, they cannot accept it. It's too late. That offer has expired. They can re-offer a draw, but you do not need to take it. I've seen this happen many times in tournaments where people try to claim a draw because they were offered it a few moves prior. That's not how it works, but people will still try it on, especially against newer players. Now, I spoke about score sheets and you have to write down your move after you've played it. There is one exception to that, and that's if you want to make a draw by 3-move repetition. If the position has been repeating it and you want to claim a draw, you will write down your move, you will pause the clock, and you will call the arbiter. The arbiter needs to be present for a 3-fold repetition to be claimed. We'll explain to them that you want to make the repetition. You show them the list of moves on your score sheet, and they see your next move. Then when ready, they'll start the clock, you make your move, and that will lock in the draw. But other than that, you should always be writing down your move after you make the move. Now, very important, if you do ever have a dispute with another player, such as they make an illegal move, or they touch a piece, but then they go to move another one, do not get in an argument back and forth with the player, but instead pause the clock, call the arbiter over, just raise your hand, they will come over and explain the situation to them, and they will make the call on the game. When there is an illegal move played, for example, the player moves their rook like a knight, then you will pause the clock, call the arbiter will come over, you'll explain to them what happened, they will move the piece back to where it belongs, they will then give you additional time on your clock as a penalty to the other player, and in addition to that, they will also give the player a warning that if they make another illegal move, they will be disqualified for that game. It's very important that you call the arbiter over to make them aware of the situation, because if they do several illegal moves in a game but you've never called the arbiter, it's very unlikely that the arbiter will disqualify them on the first mention of it. They need to be there, they need to be present for all of that. You also need to be aware that chess is a 1 versus 1 sport. People will be spectating. However, when spectating, they have the obligation not to distract the players or help the players in any way. If you do ever find yourself in a situation where you see a spectator helping a player, let the arbiter know, and the arbiters will deal with it. Never deal with it yourself, because the arbiters need to know if some foul play is happening, and if they can recognize a pattern throughout the day, then they can address that. But that's not for you to address, you're there to compete and play. Now, when a player wants to resign in tournaments, they won't tip their king, but instead they will pause their clock and shake hands. When a player wants a draw, they may not verbally offer a draw, they might just offer a handshake. So make sure that you are fully aware of what they're offering before accepting, because if you're accepting a draw thinking they resigned and you shake their hand, you may be committed to it. That being said, I've never had this happen, but I have heard of people trying to pull a quick one on other people, and it's not really that great, but it does happen. If in doubt, just ask them and they will tell you. And there you go. Once a game's complete, you shake hands. Regardless if you won or lost, you're always going to shake hands and be polite about it. And then the person who won the game typically will be the person who goes up to let the directors of play know. So what they'll do is they'll take their score sheet up and they'll speak to the person who's recording, and they'll say on board 15, white one, or on board 12, black one. And the person up there will record it. So it's the winner who goes up to announce it, not the loser. However, there may be tournaments where they expect both of you to be present to confirm the result and hand over your scorecard. Okay, I hope you have all the info you need for these tournaments. And if you like this type of content and you want to get better at the game, feel free to hit subscribe. And otherwise, I'll see you next time.